1,000 police will patrol the streets of Cologne for the start of this week's annual carnival, after hundreds of women said they were sexually assaulted in the city on New Year's Eve, in attacks that police in Germany were widely accused of covering up. Security has been doubled after the attacks, which have been largely blamed on Arabic-speaking men. The women who were assaulted are still traumatised by what happened, as Inigo Gilmore has been finding out from one mother and daughter who were determined that their story was known. Be warned, there is some highly distressing testimony in this report.
Cologne is gearing up for another massive street party. Carnival is underway, the biggest event of the year in this city of 1 million. It's barely 6 weeks since the mass sexual assault on New Year's Eve. While some are back out, getting into party mode, others have not been able to so easily forget the horrific events of New Year's Eve.
Irgendwann ist mir halt unangenehm aufgefallen, dass sich eine Hand an meinem Po, an meinem Hinterteil.
At the time, Michelle was with her mother, who was also assaulted.
In the 1,000 men, you think 200 to 300 could have been involved?
Yes, yes.
And what about the others? Just watching or?
Scream and shout and angefeuert haben die und ermutigt. Also es war ja eine Begeisterung unter den Männern. Die hatten ja Spaß an dem, was sie tun. Es war ja gewollt und mit Absicht und das war ja und zwar.
Michelle has never spoken publicly about what happened to her that night, but she and her mother were insistent that they wanted the world to know.
Die wussten, wo sie sind. Die hatten nicht vor, in die Hosentaschen zu gehen. Nein, die wussten, an welchem Körperteil sie sich befinden. Die haben gezielt. Und das heißt, die mussten wirklich unter meine Jacke sich fummeln, um überhaupt an meinen Po und vorne dran zu kommen.
Michelle goes on to describe in graphic detail an horrific sexual assault by multiple men.
Unten drunter, unter meiner Jacke, immer mehr. Das war so unangenehm, das können Sie sich gar nicht vorstellen. Das war wirklich grapschend an den Pobacken. Und das war ekelhaft, wirklich. Es war nicht schön, wirklich. Ich weiß auch gar nicht mehr, was ich jetzt weiter dazu sagen soll. Wenn ich das jetzt weiter so ausführe, dann fange ich nachher an zu heulen.
As yet, no one has been charged in connection with their assault. Cologne is known as one of the most socially liberal cities in Germany, and Carnival is when they really let their hair down. It's a swirl of fancy dress costumes, copious amounts of alcohol, and for some at least, sexual abandon. The police have been visiting welcome centres for new arrivals, with leaflets informing those unfamiliar with Cologne about what to expect during the Carnival. The festivities are underway amid heightened security. The police are trying to make amends after accusations that they failed to protect Cologne's women on New Year's Eve and initially tried to cover up the mass sexual assaults that occurred.
Do you think there was a cover-up by the police and by the authorities?
Können Sie, dass Dinge unterdrückt werden?
Ja. Absolut.
The police admit mistakes but deny a cover-up. This is a mother who's lost faith in her local police force. She says officers showed her many old photos of known criminals, but no images from the night itself.
So they showed you photos from 5 years ago?
Yes.
5 years old, all of them, 5 years old?
Not all of them, but most of them.
Ganz ehrlich, mir tut die Polizei leid. Die Polizei ist Opfer einer Politik, die glaubt, wenn sie die Augen zumacht, dann gibt es das Problem nicht. Aber die Polizei und die Menschen müssen das ausbaden.
Alice Schwarzer is one of Germany's leading feminists. She lives in Cologne. And she says her city is now at the center of a culture war.
Nicht nur in Deutschland, aber in Deutschland besonders stark, wegen unserer Vergangenheit, diesen Rassismuskomplex.
In Cologne, the free German language classes continue, a tribute to the Germans' goodwill. In this one class, I met a Christian family who had fled Mosul in Iraq, a man from Aleppo, Syria, and this man from Lagos in Nigeria.
Der Fremdenhass und die blinde Fremdenliebe. Jetzt soll alles Fremde gut sein, aber das ist natürlich genauso falsch.
Schwarzer supports Merkel's decision to welcome refugees. She herself looks after an Afghan family here in Cologne. But she believes that the intellectual left in Germany is in denial about the problems that lie ahead, especially for women.
Wir müssen dem in die Augen schauen. Wir müssen zugeben, dass es da ein Problem gibt. Wenn wir dieses Problem ändern wollen und die Frauen, sowohl die Frauen der Flüchtlinge und die Musliminnen, als auch die deutschen Frauen davor schützen wollen.
It's easy to understand why new arrivals undergo something of a culture shock when they get here. I headed out of the city centre to the western side of Cologne, where many of the new arrivals are now housed. We met Saha and Hamad. He's from Syria. She's from Iraq.
أنا من تركيا على بلغاريا ومن بلغاريا على صربيا ومن صربيا على هنغاريا ومن هنغاريا على النمسا. ضليتني شهر أنا أمشي وشهر أنا ضليت بالطريق على ما وصلت على ألمانيا.
She says there are problems in the hostel where she lives.
في شغلة مهمة إنه بالكامب في شغلات مخدرات وفي كوكايين وفي مشروب.
Hamad told me he's still not officially registered, so he roams Germany undocumented.
وعم يوزعونا من كامب لكامب، عم يبعثوني من كامب لكامب، آخر كامب هذا هو اللي قاعد فيه هلا.
I asked Michelle whether her attitude to the new arrivals has now changed.
Yes, a little bit. Ein bisschen. Wenn ich in der U-Bahn bin und dann so 2, 3 Männer stehen, die ein bisschen ausländisch aussehen und eine andere Sprache reden, halte ich schon Abstand.
Hamad the Syrian said he understands why Michelle feels like that. He was there that night and saw everything.
وصار اعتداءات على البنات شفتهم بعيني ويجوا بنات يبكوا سرقات موبايلات اعتداءات عليهم اعتداء جنسيات يمدوا ايديهم على مناطق بنات يعني
ما بيصير
ومسود وشنا قدام الدولة الألمانية على هالشيء اللي صار.
يعني احنا كمان كنا خجلانين من اللي صار.
After all the hopes of last year, there's now a sense of disillusionment about Mrs. Merkel's bold decision to welcome those dispossessed by war. Many of the Germans are unhappy, but so too are some of the new arrivals. Some I met are even thinking the unthinkable. They're thinking of going home.
السيدة ميركل قالت انه العراقيين والسوريين لهم الاولويه، بس احنا ما شفنا هالشيء. الافغان دا يصير لهم الاولويه، الافارقه دا تصير لهم الاولويه. راح يرجعوني على العراق يرجعوني.
Inigo Gilmore in Germany. Well, in Sweden, which has taken more refugees per head than anywhere else in Europe, police have also been accused of covering up alleged crimes by new arrivals. And there have been signs of a nasty backlash. Gangs of white men in Stockholm were recently seen threatening to punish refugee children. Earlier today, I spoke to the Swedish Foreign Minister, Margot Wallström, who's been at the London-Syria talks. Known for blunt speaking, last year she provoked a diplomatic crisis with Saudi Arabia, criticising their human rights record. I asked her whether she believed today's conference would succeed where past ones have failed year after year.
Maybe we have come to a point where we say that our starting point must be a human one, where the human suffering now is so immense that the world has to step in and take responsibility.
What's depressing, though, this time, is that the motive doesn't seem to be the suffering of people in the region. It seems to be the flow of refugees into Europe.
In some countries and situations, we cannot help them the way we would like to, because the sheer numbers, and we have seen it in Sweden as well, where we have received actually 30% of all the unaccompanied children that come to Europe. 30% has come to Sweden. And it means a responsibility that is long term. We have to give them education and safety and some kind of care that is really a serious one. And this has become almost overwhelming to us. We are trying our best, but it became a huge task.
Did you take too many?
No, we don't want to say it like that, because we also need immigrants to come to our country. That has made us much richer.
Where does your feminist foreign policy fit with this Syrian crisis? I mean, you've got into trouble before with Saudi Arabia with your criticism of their human rights record. How do you bring that agenda to this?
It fits very well, because we have been giving Syrian women a voice. We have made sure that they can travel to Geneva, that they are there. We are helping to train them.
I mean, while you're saying we didn't take too many refugees, we've seen masked men on the streets of Stockholm threatening refugee children.
It's not idealism, this is smart policy. It means that we use all the resources. It means that we can have and look at the global level. If we have women at the negotiating table actually signing peace deals, we know that they are more durable. We know that there will be more options on the table if also half of the population is not excluded.
I mean, David Cameron is talking about very similar things. He's talking about the possibility of avoiding a lost generation. That's not possible, is it? There's already a lost generation.
Well, we hesitate to say that it's that a case is lost. I think also as politicians you have almost a duty to say that we will do everything we can. I think we still have a chance to help a lot, especially children, giving them a chance to go to school.
You're going into this meeting with your own plan. What is it?
We are pledging $220 million over a period of 5 years. So that includes some additional humanitarian assistance and also a 5-year development cooperation plan.
Britain is pledging 10 times that. Are you doing enough?
You're a much bigger country and a much bigger budget for this. We are doing enough because we actually also pay the money that we promised to pledge at the donor conferences like this. And last year we added a lot of countries actually, they pledge, but then nothing comes out of it.
This happens though as the peace talks seem to be broken down.
Maybe there were too high expectations of the peace talks sort of taking off immediately. I think unfortunately we have some spoilers as well. So we see that the Russians and also the Assad regime continues to bomb civilians and to bomb the